Welcome everybody to another episode of Jericho's Daily Fantasy Picks. We're looking at December 19th today. We have a 5-game slate, but at FanDuel I noticed they only have a main slate. They don't have an all-day. Therefore, we are not going to touch the Los Angeles Lakers and the Oklahoma City Thunder game. It's a 16-point spread, so I think they kind of did us a favor there. You really don't want to play guessing games. If you're playing the early-only slate, good luck, but I think you're fucking crazy. Try to stick to the main slate today where you have 4 games that are all within a 1.5-point spread. So even though it's a 4-game slate, all games should be competitive, which should make for a fun night of daily fantasy. As I always do, real quick, last night I'm going to harp on the shit that fucked me. Jason Kidd is a fucking cocksucker. I liked him as a player. I'm a Dallas Mavericks fan. But to say that a guy is doubtful and the fact that he might remain out for another week and then play him is fucking absurd. Needless to say, I got fucked by John Henson last night. 0 fantasy points. And yeah, I know he got some time and got the 3 fouls. But he would have played out of necessity had Monroe been out, and the guy puts up fantasy points in a hurry. One other thing, the 4 overtime game that I had 0 exposure to, 0 exposure on FanDuel. My DraftKings lineup nailed it with Drummond, but that fucked us too. You get 20 extra minutes out of a starter in overtimes. It's essentially like them playing an entire game. So they played 2 total games over there. And it really fucked my lineups, and I still only missed the cash line by about 8 points in most cases. So, that being said, I think I still had a decent night. Thompson came through, a few other guys came through. Biyombo reached value. Klay Thompson had a nice night. So, anyways, let's go into today. I know you guys don't give a shit about my lineups yesterday. We'll start with Charlotte at Washington. Looks like you have a 0-point spread and a 205.5 over-under, which is the second highest over-under on the slate. Sorry about that. I'm going to go in order of the guys that I think are the best value. And by value, you know what I mean is according to their salary, how many fantasy points per dollar are they going to give you? Injury news, Nicholas Batum is active. I think he missed last game with an illness, I believe, but he is back. Even with that, I have Jeremy Lin listed as my top value on this team. Even with the price increase to $5,100, I see him getting anywhere from 20 to 25 points. I don't think he's going to have a high ceiling like he did the other night, but he'll still see his 25 to 30 minutes. And against Washington, he should produce. Batum is my second favorite value. At $7K, I think that's a very nice price against a team like Washington, where he should be able to fill the entire stat sheet. It's going to be a fast-paced game, and Otto Porter is not a great defender. So I really like Nicholas Batum tonight. He's probably my favorite play from Charlotte. Kind of goes downhill from there. You've got Kaminsky and Zeller, and I don't really want to play either one of those guys tonight. None of them, they're not going to break 25 minutes. I don't think they're producing at a good enough clip to reach their value at their salary. Marvin Williams, I really don't like him tonight either. And Kemba Walker against John Wall defense, I'm not a huge fan. However, in tournaments, I highly recommend stacking Wall and Kemba. And the reason I would do that is because if it is a close game and it comes down to the wire, both of those guys are going to go in full takeover mode at the end of the game. So Spencer Hawes, Jeremy Lamb, PJ Hairston, I'm not touching any of those guys on the Charlotte side of the ball. Let's move over to Washington. Give me 1 second. I'm getting my projections pulled up here. Chris Humphries, believe it or not, is my top value on the Wizards. At 3,600, seeing 20 to 25 minutes, I think the guy can produce. Ramon Sessions, he's been seeing 20 to 25 minutes with Beal out. I think he's also a decent play on a 4-game slate. Gary Neal, I don't think I want to go there. And Marcin Gortat, I kind of like him tonight. With no Al Jefferson, It's no surprise that Charlotte has been weak against centers. And Gortat should be a very nice cash play. I mean, he's going to play 30 minutes and probably get close to 30 fantasy points. The only issue I have is his price is up to 6,600 now. I liked him a lot more when it was down at 59. But on a small slate, you might want to take a long look at Gortat. I really like John Wall tonight against Kimba. I mean, with no Beal and a 0-point spread, the guy has to do everything. And he's been playing very well. At the beginning of the season, I called it, and I saw him playing like shit. I said the guy's got to be hurt. He finally came out and said that he was dealing with an ankle injury that entire time, and he's finally feeling 100%. So if you wanted to know why all of a sudden John Wall has been tearing it up, that is the reason. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think I like playing John Wall tonight more than James Harden. And when we get to that game, I'll kind of explain my reasoning there. But John Wall, one of my favorite top-tier plays of the night. I'm not going to touch Jared Dudley, and at 5,700, I don't really love Otto Porter, and it actually looks like Otto Porter is questionable. I forgot to mention that. Nene is doubtful, so we'll have to keep an eye out on that news. If Otto Porter is indeed out, I think it gives a huge bump to guys like Sessions and Neal and Dudley. So when that news comes out, you can tweet me. My Twitter's mentioned in the title of this, so I'll answer any questions you might have. That's pretty much it from this game. Let's move on to Chicago at the Knicks. Chicago obviously just played a 4 overtime game, and they're on the road. You got a 1-point spread and only a 194 over-under, so obviously not an over-under that you really want to target. And honestly, I don't want to target the Bulls at all in this matchup. I'd hate to say that you should fade a team completely on a 4-game slate, so I'll still go through it. But I'll also tell you that coming off a back-to-back on a 4 overtime game on the road, going against a slow-paced team like the Knicks doesn't really bode well for anybody. So top value, I guess, is going to be Derrick Rose against the Knicks. They have no point guard defense. He's going to see his 30 minutes, but at 6,400, I don't see him breaking 30 fantasy points. Jimmy Butler at 8,300, I don't see him breaking 35 fantasy points. Noah, maybe he'll get some extended run off the bench, but I really don't like him tonight at 4,900. Mirotic at 5,300. His minutes just aren't there. McDermott, no thanks. Gasol, way too overpriced for this game. You can just go on and on. Taj Gibson, don't trust him. Tony Snell, don't trust him. I probably will fade this game completely. Not the game, sorry. I'll fade the Bulls completely. I just don't see any way that you can come off a 4 overtime game and be productive against a team like the Knicks, who, by the way, have been playing really well. If I were to take a shot on one guy, it would probably be Jimmy Butler. I just don't like his price point at 8,300. He hardly ever reaches value for that anyways. And now you're going to tell me he's coming off a 4 overtime back-to-back on the road? Be very careful if you roster any of the Bulls tonight. On to the New York Knicks. Oh, boy. A lot of stuff that I like tonight on the Knicks side, and obviously it's because Chicago should be exhausted. Believe it or not, Robin Lopez is one of my favorite plays tonight at the center position. 4-game slate, the guy sees 20 to 25 minutes a game. The Bulls suck on the interior, and he's listed at only 3,700. I know you're probably thinking I'm nuts because we've never rostered Robin Lopez this season. But a 4-game slate against a tired team like the Bulls, I really think that you can roll out Robin Lopez and be comfortable getting 15 to 20 fantasy points at his price point. Porzingis, the guy burned me last night. He burned everybody last night. And he has another solid matchup. So what do we do? 4-game slate, 6,400. Rest. He got a lot of rest yesterday on the back-to-back. I think that I'll probably roll out Kristaps Porzingis just because it's a 4-game slate and he should get the minutes, and you actually have a close spread. So, yeah, give me Porzingis tonight. Carmelo, another one of my favorite plays of the night. 8,700, his price has climbed up a little bit. He's not going to get you 45 or 50 fantasy points, but he could get you 35 to 42 or 43 fantasy points. And I think at 8,700 on a 4-game slate, you're probably pretty happy with that. I don't have any issues with the Melo Porzingis stack. And against a tired Chicago team in a close game, I really don't have anything against the Melo Porzingis Lopez stack, which is something that I'll be taking a really long look at in my cash games. I don't like Kyle O'Quinn. I don't like Langston Galloway. I don't like Calderon. Aaron Aflalo, the only reason I'm not going to play him, because I love the way he's been playing, is because Jimmy Butler's going to guard him, and that just doesn't bode well for anybody. So let's move on to Indiana at Memphis. You've got a 1.5 point spread and a 201.5 over/under. Neither one of these teams have really been playing the defense that we're accustomed to them playing. Their games have been a little higher paced than you would expect. Let's start on the Indiana side, and the top value, Rodney Stuckey's probably your top value. He's been seeing 25 minutes a game. He's going against Memphis with Tony Allen being doubtful now, and I really think that means he's going to see a lot of Courtney Lee when he's in the game, and Courtney Lee, as we all know, is not a great defender. So, Rodney Stuckey, my top value, kind of goes downhill from there. Jordan Hill and Lavoy Allen, and that's strictly because of price point. I don't really trust either one of those guys. George Hill at 5,700 is somewhat interesting, but I don't think that I'm going to roster him. CJ Miles, I really don't want to roster him at 5,400. When he was in the 4K range, he was a great play. At 5,400, I'm not sure I can trust him. Monte Ellis at 6K. Again, he won't be facing the greatest defense, and he's going to see 30 minutes, but the guy just hasn't been producing at a consistent level. So if you put Monte in your lineup, you can pretty much expect that it's going to be a gamble, and you don't know what you're going to get. Paul George has not been worth the price tag lately. I don't think he's going to be worth the price tag again today. At 9,600, I see him getting maybe 40 fantasy points, and producing at that clip, he's just not someone that I really want to roster at that price point. Let's move on to the Memphis side. As I mentioned, Tony Allen is doubtful, but if Jason Kidd was coaching that team, doubtful just means that he's going to insert him into the starting lineup, and he's going to fuck all of your picks later that night. So, let's assume that I actually trust the Memphis coach, because he's not Jason fucking Kidd, the bald-headed fuck. Jeff Green, top value. I think you can plug and play Jeff Green. I think you can plug and play Matt Barnes. I also think you can plug and play Courtney Lee. I think all three of those guys are solid values tonight. If I had to pick one, it would probably be Courtney Lee, but I really like all of them. And in a game like tonight, close spread, 201 over/under, 4 games, there is a really good chance that I stack Barnes, Green, and Courtney Lee. I mean, I did it on a 10-game slate the other day with Tony Allen out, and it paid dividends. So, take a look at that. I think, I don't think there's anybody that I really like at small forward that would make me fade Green or Barnes. So, I mean, they're going to see, all three of these guys are going to see 30-plus minutes. All of them. I mean, I even like Conley and Gasol. So, I mean, obviously I can't roster 5 guys from the same team. But could this be a night where I roster 4? Against Indiana, that's somewhat ballsy. But they only have, 8 or 9 active players? So, anyway, that's my 2 cents on Memphis. I love them all. I mean, you could even dig down and play Chalmers or Randolph if you want to. I mean, they are so thin. Indiana, obviously, they like to go small. I mean, they don't really want to play Lavoy Allen too much. they would prefer the C.J. Miles lineup with Paul George at the 4. And if you put Paul George at the 4, then you can have Barnes or Green at the 4. And I think they're both going to run small ball, and it's going to be faster pace than anyone expects. And I really like this game. I mean, I think it's going to provide a lot of fantasy value, especially on the Memphis end. So let's move on to the Clippers at the Rockets. 212.5 over under and a 1-point spread. This is obviously the game that everybody's going to be targeting. I will say that Blake Griffin is my lock of the night. Last time out against Houston, he went absolutely nuts. Capella doesn't have a chance in hell to guard Blake Griffin. Terrence Jones doesn't have a chance in hell to guard Blake Griffin. So he is my favorite lock of the night. Put him in your lineups. Feel good about it. 9,200. He's cheaper than Paul George, and he's just a little bit more expensive than Carmelo, and his production should be higher than both of those guys. DeAndre Jordan. Yeah, I kind of like him at center tonight. I think he's going to be pretty solid for 30-plus fantasy points. Obviously, the hack of DeAndre works in your benefit because if they decide to do that, you're just looking at free points for your center. I really like Chris Paul tonight. The only downfall that I have in playing Chris Paul is Ty Lawson is suspended. And with Lawson out, it means Beverly's probably going to play 35 minutes. And Chris Paul is probably going to struggle a little bit against Beverly. We'll see. I mean, it just comes down to how your lineup kind of pans out. But as far as guys in the 8,000 to 9,000 price range, I mean, Paul's one of my favorites behind Griffin. So if you have that much left over at the point guard position, you like the rest of your lineup, I think you can feel really safe rolling out Chris Paul. And I definitely like him over the likes of Kemba and Rose. So JJ Redick at 4,500. He's an interesting play, especially if Harden tries to guard him. Here's my take on this game as far as matchups go. I really feel that Beverly's going to take Paul, and then I feel that Ariza will have to step up and guard Redick. And I know that sounds kind of weird because Ariza's a small forward and Redick's a shooting guard, but there is no way in hell that James Harden can chase around JJ Redick for an entire game, much less, he probably can't even do it for one quarter. So, if that happens, JJ Redick has a tough matchup in Ariza, and I don't think he's going to go off. But at 4,500 on a small slate and a shitty shooting guard position, I think you at least have to consider him. He's just kind of an okay play to me. Crawford, Josh Smith, and Bob Mute, Wesley Johnson, Austin Rivers. Not touching any of those guys. If you take anything from this game, I think the Griffin-DeAndre stack is actually a pretty solid play tonight on a 4-game slate. I think they both eat and eat well against a poor Houston front court. Dwight Howard, whatever. The guy doesn't play defense anymore, and he's not that great. Let's go to the Houston end of the ball. Top value, Clint Capella at 5K. I think he's going to have a good game, and he's listed as a power forward now. So that is that's a pretty solid matchup for him. Griffin doesn't play a lot of defense, and Griffin doesn't rebound. So even though Capella will struggle on the defensive end, he should make that up in other statistics like rebounds, and he'll probably get a few steals and maybe a block here or there. So at 5K, I really don't hate that price, and obviously he's going to have to play minutes because he has a way better chance of covering Griffin than somebody like Terrence Jones, who I absolutely hate tonight. Patrick Beverly, my value lock of the night. So, needless to say, I am building around Beverly with Lawson being suspended. Lawson's suspended because he's a dumbass. I think he pled guilty to a DWI charge of some sort. Beverly and Griffin are the two guys that I'm going to build around. I'm not going to give you much more as far as locks go because I want you to subscribe to my lineup service. A little self-promotion there. But Patrick Beverly, Clint Capella, both nice plays. Trevor Ariza at a shitty small forward position, seeing 35 minutes in a fast-paced game with a high over-under. I really like him. James Harden. This is tricky. So I think that Harden is going to see a lot of different defenders tonight. Mbah Moute, Lance Stevenson, Paul Pierce. I mean, you name it, if Paul Pierce is even playing. It's hard to fade a superstar on a 4-game slate in a close game at home. So I'm okay with Harden, but I'm probably going to try to go with a balanced lineup due to the fact that Harden hasn't broken value in like the last week, I don't think. Granted, last time out against the Clippers, he put up 46 actual points, and I can't remember how many fantasy points, but it was at least in the 60s. So that was with Chris Paul out. I think Chris Paul being back changes things. I think Redick's going to guard Beverly, and I think Paul could see quite a bit of Harden. So I don't love Harden tonight. He's been playing like shit. He's been lazy. He's obviously unhappy. It's kind of frustrating just to watch him play. He looks like a piece of shit. So I wish his price was down around $9,500 to $10K because that's where he's been playing. At 10.7, it makes it kind of tough. I mean, if you have that left over and you're happy with the rest of your lineup, then by all means plug him in. But I think I'm going to try to go with a more balanced approach with guys like Griffin and DeAndre and maybe even Chris Paul. Dwight Howard had a 2020 game last time out. And I like him tonight. I mean, I think he's going to see 30 minutes. I think he's going to put up, 30 to 35 fantasy points. And at 7,500, that's a pretty nice play. But I think I like DeAndre Jordan a lot more than Howard tonight. So I think, and mostly because of minutes and the hack at DeAndre, I think I'm going to roll with DeAndre Jordan at center. I like him a little bit more than Dwight. In tournaments, by all means, pivot to Dwight. Thornton, Brewer, Monte Eunice, Terrence Jones, Jason Terry. Nah. No fucking way. That's pretty much it, guys. Like I said, if you have questions on the Lakers OKC game and you want them answered, you can tweet me. My Twitter's in the title. My lineup service, I have cashed in 6 out of 7 nights the past week. Obviously, we lost last night on FanDuel, but still cashed on DraftKings. It's very inexpensive, guys. Very inexpensive. You're looking at $10 for a week, $30 for a month, or $60 for the entire fucking season. An entire season of lineups for $60. You're going to make that back in one fucking night if you're, wagering $60 or more. They are for cash games. I can tell you how to consistently build your bankroll. I've been doing it for a long time. I've made a lot of money in DFS. If you want to tweet me at In Jericho's Words, I'll answer all your questions. I'll direct message you. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Good luck, guys. I hope you have a great weekend. And sorry I haven't been able to make that many videos lately, but hopefully you enjoyed it. And one more thing. Fuck Jason Kidd.